Hi, I'm Steve and welcome to my kitchen. I have always said I can make anything from a bowlie to a cinnamon roll using the no-knead method. And today I want to show you how to make cinnamon rolls. We'll start by making sweet roll dough. One recipe that will fit your entire sweet roll needs. The dough remains the same. The process for making the rolls changes. I'll be using 3 cups bread flour, 3 tablespoons sugar, 1½ teaspoons salt, 1/4 teaspoon instant yeast, 4 tablespoons melted butter, 1 large egg yolk, 1½ teaspoons vanilla extract, and 11 ounces whole milk. Before we start, I want to make one point. Instead of using water as its wet ingredient, sweet roll dough uses whole milk. Unpasteurized milk has bacteria, enzymes, and proteins. So in the old days, everybody scalded the milk before baking. But in today's world, milk is pasteurized, which kills the bacteria and destroys the enzymes. But it does not denature the proteins. Because it does not denature the proteins, there are 4 schools of thought: scalding, heating, cold, or drying. All are excellent choices. In developing my sweet roll dough recipe, I did a number of side-by-side comparisons. I was surprised to learn they all took longer to rise, and I found the most important factor was proofing temperature. After my tests, I decided to use cold milk and extend the minimum proofing time from 8 to 12 hours, but you should decide for yourself. I set up my workspace with my utensils and ingredients, and my cookbook off to the side. I'm going to start with the dry ingredients: 3 cups bread flour. I use a scoop and shake method for measuring flour. This recipe is very forgiving and you don't have to be exact. It's important to use bread flour. It was specifically designed for bread making. Next, 1½ teaspoons salt. I use everyday table salt. 1/4 teaspoon instant yeast, sometimes referred to as bread machine yeast. And 3 tablespoons sugar. Before we add the wet ingredients, I want to mix the dry ingredients to ensure the sugar, salt, and yeast are evenly distributed throughout the flour. Now the wet ingredients: 4 tablespoons melted butter, 1 large egg yolk, 1½ teaspoons vanilla extract, and 11 ounces whole milk. Next, we'll combine the wet and dry ingredients. Note, I'm drawing the flour from the sides of the bowl into the middle. It hydrates the flour faster, which reduces the mixing time. I like to use the handle end of a plastic spoon. Can you see how easy it is to manipulate the dough when you don't have a big clump on the end? And I'll scrape the sides of the bowl to get the remaining flour into the dough. And we're done. Did you see how easy that was? No mixer, no kneading, no yeast proofing. All we have to do now is cover the bowl with plastic wrap, leave it on the counter to proof overnight, and Mother Nature will do the kneading for us. I'll see you in the morning. No-Knead sweet roll dough should be proofed for 12 to 24 hours in a warm, draft-free environment. The dough has proofed overnight and more than doubled in size. It's time to make the rolls. Bakers have known for years that bread benefits from long proofing times. The no-knead method takes advantage of this principle. It uses a minimum amount of yeast and long proofing times to develop flavor. Meanwhile, the long proofing times replaces the arduous task of kneading. Mother Nature does the kneading for you. I'm going to start by making the cinnamon sugar mixture. I'll be using 1/3 cup white sugar and 1 rounded teaspoon cinnamon. I'll start with 1/3 cup sugar. I'm going to level the sugar by scraping the cup on the lip of the container. And 1 rounded teaspoon cinnamon. No need to use anything special. I'll use the measuring spoon to stir to combine. The cinnamon sugar mixture is ready. Let's get started with the rolls. I set up my workspace with the dough off to the left, flour and utensils off to the right, along with a rolling pin, a 9-inch round pan, and no-stick spray. I'll start by spraying the pan with no-stick spray. Next, I'll dust the workspace with flour and scrape the dough out of the bowl. Note the stringy nature of the dough. That tells us Mother Nature has done her job. With floured hands, I'm going to lightly pat the dough to flatten. Then, using a plastic bowl scraper, I'll fold the dough over onto itself. Note how the plastic bowl scraper scrapes the flour off the work surface into the dough, coating the dough ball, which makes it easier for me to handle the sticky dough. I'm going to drizzle the dough with a little vegetable oil and use a rolling pin to distribute it. Next, I'll roll the dough over so the oil side is on the work surface. A little layer of oil on the bottom will make it easier to spread the dough and keep it from sticking. Now, drizzle the top with a little oil and roll the dough into a strip 8 inches wide. That's 1 inch for each roll. Sprinkle the dough with the cinnamon sugar mixture and spread with your hand. I'm going to roll the dough from the far end, and I'll use the plastic bowl scraper to keep it from sticking. I need 8 rolls. I'm going to start by cutting the dough in half. It helps me to divide the dough more equally. Note how I'm using the plastic bowl scraper to help me carry the roll to the pan. And we're done. I've placed the rolls in a warm draft-free setting and covered them with a flour sack towel to proof. Before I leave the kitchen, I've positioned the rack in the middle of the oven. I do it in advance so I don't forget. I'm going to proof the dough for an hour and a half, and I want to preheat the oven, so I'm setting the timer for an hour and 15 minutes. Dough should be proofed for 1 to 2 hours, and the oven should be preheated. It's been an hour and 15 minutes, and I'm setting the oven to 350 degrees, and I'll be setting the timer for an additional 15 minutes. The dough has been proofing for an hour and a half, and the oven is preheated. It's time to bake the rolls. The rolls have proofed and doubled in size. I put the rolls in the oven, and I set the timer for 35 minutes. While the rolls are baking, I'm going to make the glaze. I'll be using 2 cups powdered sugar and 3 to 4 tablespoons whole milk. I put 2 cups powdered sugar in a small bowl, and I'm going to add 2 tablespoons milk. I'll stir to combine. It takes a little while for the milk to hydrate the sugar. It's time to add another tablespoon milk. This is about the right consistency. We'll wait for the rolls to finish baking. Here are the rolls. What do you think? Let's add a little glaze. And we're finished. I think you'll enjoy these cinnamon rolls. If you aren't familiar with the no-knead method, I would like to invite you to watch Ultimate Introduction to No-Knead Bread. It's my new and improved introduction. I would also like to introduce you to my latest cookbook, World's Easiest Sweet Roll Recipes. It has a nice selection of recipes that I'm sure you'll enjoy. Thanks for watching.